Chapter 52. More bitter than sweet. Night had already fallen by the time they reached Ambria. The mountain village was illuminated with many colourful lanterns that overhung the streets like gleaming apples on a branch. They were still decorating the main thoroughfare as remnants from the festivities of the winter solstice celebrations a few weeks ago, gently dangling in the wind, swaying back and forth in a soothing rhythm, delivering a quaint and charming ambience to the otherwise unremarkable little village. It was quiet and peaceful. A group of youthful people were huddled together in the town square in front of a towering obelisk, simply enjoying each other's company. A man and a woman were passing by with their arms interlocked, chattering about which tavern they should go to, not at all paying heed to the group of riders that entered the town. A few lost souls were waddling across the cobblestones in drunken stupors like headless chickens, uncertain whether they had just left home for a night of drinking at the tavern, or that they were actually on their way back home. Nothing about Ambria would indicate that the nation was on the verge of a great divide. Marlin Goldwing, the Merylesian commander who had taken up the position to lead the insurrection, explained on their way from the Cold Vein that because of the swift development regarding the succession of the crown, there was barely any time to organise a proper structure for a revolution. The nation was still mourning the loss of its matriarch, and while there was a council in place to assume command in situations like these, 4 of its 6 members were only appointed in the past few years by Willow Whiteshade and Jackdaw Blackshaw, when the late queen was already too weakened from her illness to rule. Their loyalty to the soon-to-be monarchs of Moralis was absolute, and Marlin never even considered gauging their opinions regarding the suspicious circumstances in which Rosalis Whiteshade III met her demise. Only Marlin Goldwing and Fox Silverfang, the 2 commanders who had been part of the council for over a decade, were willing to see the foul play that was involved in the late queen's death. Together they gathered an army of 3,000, but most of their troops were still garrisoned in their respective domains, Marantha and Selivos, over 100 miles removed from Vicaris and Ambria. If the makeshift alliance were to make a move on the capital city, it would take at least 3 days for them to gather their full strength. But Marlin explained that any discontent regarding Jackdaw and Willow were kept in the dark, so that when they finally did strike, the assault would be launched in surprise, swift and silent, with minimal casualties. They couldn't afford to arouse suspicion until everything was set in place, and so only a few dozen soldiers were stationed in Ambria at the moment. Marlin motioned the soldiers who joined her to the bowels to reinforce the perimeters. She then whistled with her fingers and waved at a soldier near the square to come closer. A young man in his early 20s immediately hurried toward her and stiffened to a statuesque salute. His eyes rapidly bounced back and forth between his commander and her dark-skinned guest.
"What's the current situation, soldier?"
"Quiet on all sides, Commander. We haven't received word from our spies in Vicaris. Marantha and Selivos have finished their preparations and are ready to march on your order. Our illustrious guests are scattered across town, awaiting your arrival, but I regret to inform you that some of them seem a bit restless and begin to show discontent regarding our prudent approach."
Marlin snickered.
"Some things will never change. Raconians aren't exactly known for their patience."
She turned around and aimed her words at the new arrivals.
"Please allow me the time to give my troops some instructions. Meet me in an hour at a tavern called the Siren's Song. Just follow the sound of sadness, and you'll find it eventually. We will discuss our next step there."
She whistled again and waved over another soldier.
"You can leave your horses with Snow. He will guide them to the stables and treat them with great care. I'm sure you all are eager to stretch your legs again."
And with that, she took off with the young soldier who kept turning his head to find Raven.
"We are off to the sound of sadness, then,"
Raziel said.
"No use wandering around in the cold."
He confidently strode into a narrow alleyway as if he already knew the fastest shortcut to the tavern. Zian followed at a leisurely pace with his hands folded behind his back.
"I will send word to Grandmaster Ayla to inform her of our arrival,"
Soma said and glanced at Noelle, but she only responded with a flat look that told him to do whatever he felt like he should be doing.
"I will see you in an hour, then."
He made a courteous bow and wandered off, searching for a high and open space.
"And what will you two do?"
Noelle asked.
Coming back to this place must be a bittersweet experience.
More bitter than sweet, Raven said, having eyed the giant obelisk at the centre of the town square ever since they arrived. Rain lowered her head and started fidgeting her fingers.
I don't know. I feel strangely at ease to be back here, if I'm to be completely honest. Breeze is still exactly as I remember. It is somewhat comforting to see that not much has changed since we left.
Raven spun his head around and stared at his sister with disbelief.
How can you even say that?
He hissed.
Have you forgotten the pain we suffered here?
I haven't forgotten anything.
Rain snapped back.
How can you even say that? Do you honestly think that I would forget I was taken in the very same alleyway Lord Raziel and Lord Xian just went into? Do you think I could ever forget you were chained to the obelisk we are all looking at right now, where you were left for dead for a few days until Lord Cato came to rescue you?
She blew a strand of hair from her face and crossed her arms.
We all deal with things differently, Raven. The traumatic events we experienced do not erase all the good times we have had here. You don't have the right to tell me I can't cherish the warm memories that have shaped me as a person. Mum and Dad.
Your mum and dad.
Rain fell silent with her mouth left open. Her eyes immediately welled up, but she bravely fought against the tears.
I think you need to be left alone with your thoughts for the time being.
She hastily turned around before anyone could see the sorrow on her face and stormed off across the square.
Shouldn't you go after her?
Raven said quietly, embarrassed of what flew out of his mouth. He didn't mean it. He didn't even know what made him say it.
And I will.
Noelle said, eyeing the young blonde who seemed to be waiting for her.
But there are things I want to say to you first.
Raven averted his eyes and remained silent.
We are not so different, you and I. We are both raised by strangers in an environment far removed from our ancestral homes. It is difficult for people like us to find our own identities, knowing how dissimilar our blood is compared to those around us. Many people call me Queen Noelle because I am the only living member of the Navatsi clan that once ruled Ludor. To be clear, I only have a few memories left of my parents, and none are particularly pleasant. Still, people expect me to dedicate my life trying to reclaim the throne that supposedly belongs to me by right. And truth be told, I did spend 10 years of my life chasing that dream. It came at a heavy cost, and for what? It wasn't even my dream to begin with.
She tapped her long fingernails on her metallic elbow and paused to think for a moment.
Never allow your life to be dictated by the expectations of other people, Raven Knight. Fulfilling someone else's wish will not bring the happiness you seek.
Raven nodded thoughtfully, but kept his eyes on the cobbles.
I don't even know what I'm looking for. All I know is that I've been feeling restless ever since I was called a crown prince, and I will most likely continue to feel restless until I gain some clarity.
Noelle showed him a sympathetic smile.
In that case, it might very well be your dream to chase down the truth, but does doing so make it necessary to shed your past and alienate those who love you in the process?
They both stared at Rain, who immediately flushed crimson red and spun around with her arms crossed.
I fear that the path I'm heading toward will be filled with danger,
Raven said.
I can't have Rain risk her life helping me chase my dream. Having said what you just said, surely you understand my meaning.
Your sister is an admirable individual, and from what I've been told, she has you to thank for it. She had no real reason to leave the safety of Rokan and embark on a dangerous journey, but it was her wish to stay by your side and offer you all the support you can get. A gentle soul like her is a rarity in this world, and I will take personal offense to anyone who tries to bring her down, even if it's her own brother.
Raven shifted his eyes to Rain, but she wasn't looking back at him.
You saw the look in her eyes, Raven Knight. I'm guessing it was a sight you haven't seen very often. I could summarize all the scientific data that came along with such a sudden shift in emotions, but I think we both already know what it means.
Raven nodded sullenly, too ashamed to meet Noelle's penetrating eyes. He did recognize that look on Rain's face. It was the same horrified shock she showed when he was wailing on their captive, back in the stable of Doriva.
I will make up with her.
You will, but not right now. She said you need to be left alone with your thoughts for the time being, meaning that she needs to be left alone with her thoughts for now. Take this opportunity to think about what is truly important to you. Do not try to break what is impossible to break. The blood in your veins does not have to be the ink of your story.
Noelle put a hand on Raven's shoulder and left him to his thoughts.
Lady Noelle,
Raven asked before she was halfway across the square.
what would you have done if you did manage to reclaim the throne?
Noelle remained motionless for a few seconds.
Nothing good comes from people who aspire to rule simply because they believe it is their right to rule. Even worse things come from those who never sought to rule at all. My parents were lynched because they were too conceited to recognize the flaws in their rule. The Ludori people were right to fight for a better life and seize control of their own destiny. In the long run, it didn't go as they had hoped, of course, but they took fate by the throat and forced the bridle on it to steer into a direction of their own choosing.
That doesn't exactly answer my question.
I guess it doesn't.
Noelle shrugged and continued walking to Rain. Raven remained standing as he watched them disappear into a street that would eventually lead to the house he and Rain grew up in. After staring into nothingness for a few minutes, he started to drift toward the obelisk without even realizing. The group of youngsters looked up and immediately backed away a few paces the second they saw Raven approaching. They were giggling and whispering to each other behind the cover of their hands while freely letting their eyes bounce up and down. Raven was sure the murmurs couldn't be anything positive, but he ignored them as he had become well accustomed to attracting unwanted attention pretty much wherever he went. To a perpetual outsider like him, whispers were as natural as the sound of leaves dancing in the wind. His eyes dropped to the base of the obelisk where several dark stains still marked the sand-coloured monolith. His mind trailed off to the days when he was chained to the monument like some feral beast. After a short while, the whispers of the youngsters returned to playful chattering, but it quickly blended in with the rest of the background noise. He didn't know how long he had been staring at the ingrained blackened bloodstains, but when an unexpected hand on his back whipped him out of his reverie, he noticed that he was crying. He turned around, fully expecting one of the shithead kids to taunt him, but was surprised to find out that they had already left. He quickly wiped his cheeks and feigned a smile.
Lady Aisha?
The strangest thing,
Aisha said, walking past him and leaning against the obelisk with her arms crossed.
less than an hour ago, I was thinking about you and your sister, seeing how the two of you were brought up in this lovely village. And as if on cue, some of the locals were starting to gossip about the arrival of a dark-skinned man. Funny enough, my first thought wasn't that you had come to Ambria, but rather that Jackdaw Blackshaw had somehow managed to catch a whiff of our scheme and come to ambush us. You see, in my mind, you were already assumed dead. But as I surveyed the streets, I suddenly came across Rain, and I could barely believe what I was seeing. She was walking hand in hand with Noelle Navazzi, of all people. What's up with that? Anyway, they told me where to find you, and here we are. So enlighten me, Raven. What the fuck?
Raven frowned. He wasn't sure whether Aisha was angry or happy to see him, but he could tell that she was hoping to see someone else beside him.
Kay isn't here, my lady.
I can see that,
She responded icily.
Don't tell me the idiot met his demise in Doriva. Dear Ava, that almost sounds like a tragic comedy.
Raven shook his head.
He's fine. You don't need to worry about him. He should still be in Rokan with Lady Maya and Lord Marcus.
Aisha scoffed and slowly bobbed her head.
What about the rest of your team? You left Serenity Hills as a group of 8. What about Koba, Jada, the giant mute, and that other guy? Why haven't you sent a message regarding the status of your mission?
We did. Or at least, we thought we did.
Raven gritted his teeth and cast his eyes far away from Aisha's piercing gaze.
Jada was severely wounded during the mission. Koba, Cameron, and Peyton were ordered to escort her back to Onira so that Master Nia could treat her. They should have returned well over a month ago, but we only learned from Commander Marlin on our way to Ambria that we were supposed to be missing, which means that Koba, Cameron, Peyton, and Jada never made it back.
No wonder your sister looked the way she did. You have to tell me everything that happened in Doriva. As it stands at the moment, the 8 of you are still considered missing by the Oneran Council. If King Ephra hadn't sent us a proposal for a joint operation, we wouldn't even know that the entire city was abandoned.
The king didn't mention us?
Not that I know of, but if he did, Grandmaster Aemon never informed the council.
Aisha straightened her posture and grabbed Raven by the shoulders.
What exactly happened in Doriva? Why is the entire city abandoned? How could 60,000 people simply vanish without a trace?
Commander Marlin actually asked me to tell the whole story before the entire alliance at the Siren Song. If you don't mind, I would rather relive the nightmare only once.
Aisha smiled and let go of him with a few brushes on the arms.
It's good to see you in good health, Raven. Shall we go then?
Raven replied with a smile that felt more forced than he would have liked.
You are too kind, Lady Aisha.
She sighed.
No.
Excuse me?
How long have we known each other, Raven?
Raven frowned. Again, he couldn't say for certain if her agitation was genuine.
6 years?
He answered in what sounded like a question back to her.
6 years.
Aisha repeated in confirmation.
Do you still see me as a stranger?
Raven didn't know how to react.
No, Lady Aisha. Even if it's only one-sided, I have always seen you as a friend,
He said in a hurry.
Then stop calling me Lady Aisha.
My apologies. I was only trying to be polite.
If it's courtesy you want to show, you should call me Master Aisha instead, as the rank of a master precedes any title of nobility. But if it's friendship you want to show, drop any of that nonsense and just call me by my name.
Aisha?
The nakedness of her name timidly left his lips like a fledgling leaving its nest for the first time.
Yes.
Aisha,
He said again with a genuine grin on his face that had eluded him for such a long time.
Yes?
thank you.